Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the second in a series of little chats about God in the ordinary. My name's Christine Lewis. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for watching my other video, and thank you for popping by and watching this video. I hope you were blessed by the last one and equally as blessed with the content of this one. So very quickly, in relation to ministry, I'm an ordained minister. I teach, I preach. I'm a lover of God, lover of his word, lover of his people. That's it in a nutshell. In relation to family, which is something that I didn't mention in my last video, I'm a mother of one, a grown-up one. I'm a mother-in-law of one, a grown-up one. And I'm a Grammy to three. I have two granddaughters, twin granddaughters, who are 20 this month actually. And I have a hero grandson who are, as we speak, off in LA sunning themselves, having left grandma behind. What can you say? Other than I'm blessed. Anyway, what I want to talk to us about tonight is contentment. Contentment in the ordinary. This is such a vital component to the Christian life. Contentment in the ordinary. There is no way on this planet can you or I ever hope to live a happy life without contentment. We'll never get in the vicinity of happy if we don't have contentment. So it's a vital force for happiness. Paul says over in 1 Timothy chapter 6, I think it was, he said there that godliness with contentment brings great gain. Not just godliness, but godliness with contentment brings great gain. And the word gain that he uses there actually means provision. So godliness with contentment brings great provision. Not just provision, but brings great provision. And the word contentment just simply means to be satisfied with what you have. How can you ever be happy if you're never satisfied with what you have? So godliness with contentment. Godliness, living a life of godliness and a life whereby we are happy with what we have in God, content with what we have in God. That is going to draw into our world great gain, great provision. So it's a really important thing for us to have operating in our souls, isn't it? Going from the word and from my own experience of many years as a Christian, I would say this, that contentment is not something that you just bump into. Contentment, we don't experience contentment by accident. It's deliberate. If we were just left to our own devices, we would just be moaning and groaning and complaining the whole of the journey. So if we want contentment, we have to reach in and purposefully get it. It's not just going to fall out of heaven. No, we have to play our part if we're going to experience contentment. So what I want to do is just read a little bit of something. It's only a couple of lines from a chap by the name of Oswald Chambers. And just as an aside, the Lord brought this man, Oswald Chambers, into my world at a time in my life when I really just wasn't getting it. It was like whenever life was hard or difficult, struggling, my first reaction would always be to cry. I would just cry, go to, oh Lord, And so the Lord brought Oswald Chambers to me. I think he was a bit fed up of me, to be honest. And so, yeah, he brought Oswald Chambers, and the content of his writing is absolutely fabulous, mind-blowing in some places. But it wasn't the content initially that spoke to me, it was the tone. He has this tone. Oswald Chambers writes in a way that he just goes straight for the jugular, And it's as though he has no sentimentality whatsoever, which is just what I needed in my soppiness. He doesn't mollycoddle you in any way, shape or form. And through this man and his tone, I felt the Lord just tell me to get a grip, to stop crying. Christine, I've got enough bottles in heaven now filled with your tears. In fact, I've run out of bottles. So you need to stop crying, face your issues head on, and learn how to deal with them. That's what he told me through Oswald Chambers, in a nutshell. So I'm just going to read something that he says about the ordinary life. And very often in these, because these are daily readings, very often Oswald Chambers would refer to the Christian and the ordinary life. So he says here, it requires the supernatural grace of God to live 24 hours in every day as a saint, to go through drudgery as a disciple, to live an ordinary, unobserved, ignored existence as a disciple of Jesus. So if you didn't catch what he said there, he said this, that we need the supernatural grace of God to live an ordinary life. Wow. We need the supernatural grace of God to live an ordinary life. Boom. I agree with you there, Ozzy. And then he says these two things that really whammed me, which is what I want to make this, the rest of this video about. He says, it is inbred in us that we have to do exceptional things for God, but we have not. Listen to that. It's inbred in us that we have to do exceptional things for God. You know, this kind of belief, to believe that we have to do exceptional things for God, is one of the biggest blocks that we will ever have to contentment. You know, the whole live it big, live it large, come on now, that I talked about in the last video. You know, let's do something great for God. You know, the reality is that we never ultimately do anything for God, ever. You know, your greatest and highest doing, your greatest, most sacrificial doing, you know, for God, when you take the lid off it and you examine it and you get right to the core of it, what you will find is that in that great sacrifice that you made in your doing for God, that actually the reality of it was that God was doing for you. Never ultimately are we doing anything for God. It is him always doing for us. Whenever I see those words for you in my Bible, I circle them to remind me of the way round it is. You know, bless our lovely, beautiful Jesus, people. So, that is a big block to contentment. So don't ever think from this moment onwards, remove that from your belief system, that you don't ever have to do anything, any big thing for God at all. And so then he goes on to say, we have to be exceptional in, but he says, we have to be exceptional in the ordinary things. We have to be exceptional. We have to be exceptional in the ordinary things. What a powerful line that is. And for me, if we could grasp this is a powerful key that opens up the way to contentment. You know, I've said contentment is not accidental, it's deliberate. You know, and to nurture a heart and an attitude, which is basically what he's saying, to nurture a heart and an attitude whereby we want to do things well, will open up, you know, a window for contentment. It's going to welcome contentment in, because nobody will ever know contentment if their attitude to the things that they do in their ordinary life is slapdash. We have to slap the slapdash attitude, you know, forget it. You know, I live alone, my husband's with Jesus now, and when you live alone, it's so easy to fall into that hole, to fall into that attitude, to fall into that trap of slapdash. You know, oh, that'll do. You know, and you really do have to pull yourself back from that attitude. And, you know, slapdash will never bring contentment. So he's saying, you know, we have to be exceptional in the ordinary things. We have to have and nurture a heart and an attitude whereby we want to do well in the job at hand. Paul puts it another way. He says, in all that you do, he says, do everything as unto the Lord. Because the reality is, you know, we're never on our own. I might live alone, but I'm never alone. It's me and the Lord. And so slapdash can never do. Bless our lovely Jesus. So we're not talking about perfection here either. You know, I think perfection is a scourge. But, you know, no, Jesus is our perfection. He's my perfection. I don't have to do anything perfectly. He's done it all perfectly for me. I just do my best. So to be exceptional in ordinary things. Paul said that he had learned to be content, didn't he, in all things. So here's the thing. Here's what I've learned. No, I'm going to change that. I'm not going to say this is what I've learned. That's a stretch of the truth, actually. I'm going to say this is what I'm learning. That it is in the consistency of this attitude of wanting to do all things well, wanting to do all things unto the Lord. It's in the consistency of that your ordinary is transformed into something that is extraordinary. So we're still living the ordinary life, but we are living it in an extraordinary way. When we have a heart to do all things well, to do all things unto the Lord, we are living our ordinary lives in an extraordinary way. And what that does is to show us that the ordinary life and the extraordinary life were never two separate roads. They were actually always one road. So all of this, like I said before, live it big, live it large, no, it's all one road. As I learn to do things well, not give in to the slapdash spirit, to do things well, to do things as unto the Lord. That contentment grows and develops in my life. I'm actively reaching into and calling and welcoming contentment, aren't I? And the consistency of that transforms what is ordinary into something that is extraordinary. So I'm just going to leave it here. My time's nearly gone again. I hope what I've said tonight will make some kind of difference to your world. Next video, I will talk about Moses in Midian and just see how he reached in and experienced contentment there in his ordinary. So anyway, thank you for tuning in again, for popping by and listening to this video, listening to this chat, and have a blessed night, a blessed tomorrow, and a blessed the day after. Oh, and the day after that. Anyway, speak to you soon.